Yizzo, sorry about the intro, guys. I hit the button by accident, so I played it twice. Anyway, uh, I'm ready to do this show. Now, I didn't want to do this show without knowing what the fuck it is I'm talking about. So I spent the day listening to stuff about this case. You know what I mean? Because I want to know what's going on. I don't want to have to rely on you guys to tell me. So I listened all day and I learned some things. I did. Uh, I'll say this. Yesterday, Jeff Nadeau came on and he has the opinion that maybe Diddy is innocent or it's not as bad as it's being made out to be in the media, stuff like that. When I first started listening to stuff today, I thought, maybe Jeff's right. He might be right. I don't know. Like for instance, he was arguing about the bail too. How Diddy isn't getting bail and how that's wrong. And I understand how people could see it that way, but here's the thing. And I listened to stuff, obviously, and I learned about why he isn't getting bail and things like that. His crimes were committed at his home. You know what I mean? So even though he wants house arrest, like he requested house arrest, they can't risk it because he could be having chicks sent over or having, I don't know, employees in the home that he might, victimize. He could just be doing, while he's on bail, even on house arrest, exactly what he was doing in this indictment. You know what I mean? So I understand now why they're not giving him bail, and I truly believe they will not. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's like it doesn't matter that he's going to put up a $50 million mansion and he turned in his passport and his kids turned in their passports. It's not about flight risk with him. The risk is at his house or any one of his houses. That's where there's a good chance that he might continue his crimes, right there in his home. So I understand completely now why they're not giving him bail and they shouldn't. The more I learned about this and listened, the more I realized that, he was victimizing everybody around him, basically. And I want to get to that too, because, Jeff Nadeau was saying about the trafficking. You fly a chick or whoever to your home for one of these freak offs. That's just like, he compared it to basically if he met a girl online and said, hey, why don't you come over? I'll fly you here. And it is different. It is different because, and this is where a lot of the racketeering and all that shit comes into play. And honestly, the sex trafficking charges, he was bringing these women here, not just from other states, but other countries as well. Okay. And what he was doing in a lot of cases is putting them up, for example, in a hotel or whatever. And then he would hold that over their head in order to keep them participating in the freak offs. Like, in other words, I'll stop paying for the hotel. You're fucked. I won't even pay for a airline ticket home. So it's that kind of stuff he was holding over their heads. He was holding career opportunities over people's heads. Of course, he was basically paying people's way, supporting them financially, and then threatening to take that away if they don't continue participating in these freak offs. So that is exactly what we talked about yesterday with like prison guards and inmates. That is the R word. It is, because you're basically forcing somebody to do something by holding something over their head or having power over them in some way. It's not completely voluntary. If somebody doesn't want to join in, one of the freak offs, and Diddy says, well, I'll cut you off, or you'll be fired, or, you'll never have another shot at the music industry or whatever ever again. Well, then what are they going to do? It's like Harvey Weinstein. You know, it's kind of the same thing. He had the power to make or break careers. So, he used that power, the fact that he could make you a celebrity overnight, basically, to get you to have sex with him. That's what he was doing. And that's what Diddy's doing. It's the same shit. It's not as innocent. Oh, it's not as innocent as, oh, it's just a bunch of people who are getting together to have sex. That would be like a voluntary orgy. This is a type of situation where not everybody involved necessarily wants to be involved. Okay. A lot of them feel like they have to, or they just do have to take part in this stuff. So I understand this a lot fucking better now. I do. And I'll also say, with the discussion with Eric Foss and Jeff Nadeau, Eric Foss kept saying it's airtight, and Jeff didn't agree. Oh, it's airtight. It is air fucking tight. I listened to hours of this shit today on the Law and Crime Network. I heard attorneys break it down. Big trouble. Big trouble. He is fucked. This is not some, like Jeff was saying, the stuff he was doing isn't illegal. Well, okay. I understand what he's saying when it comes to this, for example. Like, I made comments a bunch of times that now prostitution, you can't even be a prostitute, or you're sex trafficking, basically, even if it's yourself. You know what I mean? You're sex trafficking yourself, or if you have a pimp, you know what I mean? Your pimp is sex trafficking you. All right. Now we're not used to this. The times we grew up in, there's pimps, there's hoes. You know what I mean? And if a guy is a pimp, that's what he was. He was a pimp. You didn't look at it as sex trafficking, but it is, because, give you an example. I said about a friend of mine named Allie. I talked about this before. I worked with her at the motorcycle place. Allie was first of all, she was a bad motherfucker, but she was a tough bitch. She was not somebody, a lot of girls wanted to fuck around with. And but she was very attractive and stuff. And she was a hard worker and all that shit. She was a very sweet girl. But it turned out the reason because she was working there through work release. The reason she had gone to jail, I believe they gave her a year or something, was because she was charged with sex trafficking. But what it was she had a bunch of girls that were prostitutes. They were. That's why I used to look at it like, wait a minute, how is that sex trafficking? She's not forcing them to do anything. But when you really look at the details of it, she was, because she had the dope and they were all heroin addicts. Okay. So she would, set up back page ads and all this stuff for all these different girls. She would go get a hotel room, bring all the girls with her, and then she would just have guy after guy. She had it all set up, and the different girls would have to have sex with these guys. And she held the heroin over their heads. You want to get high? You dope sick? Well, you got to do this. And then she would, of course, get paid. She was basically the pimp. But that is essentially forcing somebody to have sex against their will. You are 100%. So now I understand why she got charged with what she got charged with. And again, a lot of these people, like I was listening to this, a lot of the people that were involved in these freak-offs were supervisors in his, business, his organization, whatever. They were just plain employees. They were people that he was, had on the payroll, so to speak, and he was taking care of them. He was putting them up in hotels. He was paying for their living situation, whatever. Okay. So here's the bad news for Diddy. Bad news. Even if it's your word against theirs, and let's just say that certain individuals were doing it willingly and they actually loved it. They couldn't wait to take part in it. Doesn't matter, because you had power over them. You had power over them. And they got all this other evidence that they're going to use to build that case, that you had power over these people that were involved in these crazy sex parties, and you were flying them in from all over the fucking world. Trafficking, you know? And they even explained it like this, where the trafficking really takes place. They're flying them across state lines, sometimes in from another country. Well, in different states, they would, stop. I don't know what they had set up. Maybe it was one of his homes, hotels. I think there was hotels from time to time. They would have sex there, go to a different state, have sex there, go to a different state. And they would have these freak offs all over the fucking place. Federal, trafficking. That's what it is. Now, some people still might not agree with that word being used, or that being, considered the definition of what went on with him, or what goes on in situations like this. Doesn't matter. This is why you got to be careful. The law is written a certain way, and you have to know the law to know if you're breaking it. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. You know what they say. So listen, people do shit in their everyday lives sometimes they don't even know is illegal. You know what I mean? And if they get caught doing it, they just might catch some sort of case. It might be something tiny, might be something big, but there's a lot of laws out there, and a lot of new laws, and a lot of laws have been changed. So what used to be pimping and prostitution is now sex trafficking and human trafficking. It is. So now you got to be much more careful if you're going to do something like that, or just don't do it at all, because these are the charges you'll face now. And if you're a prostitute who has a bunch of other girls that you set up dates for, human trafficking, sex trafficking, period. That's all it has to be. That's all it has to be. So this is a lot more serious than I thought. Like yesterday, I had to kind of listen to Jeff's side of things, because he read the indictment. And Eric did as well. So I was listening to both of them. But today, I listened to all different types of lawyers that are defending him and lawyers that aren't. I listened to them, and they broke down the case. And, to hear the defense tell the story, it's just, it was all a bunch of people who willingly took part in, having sex with each other and him and whatever else. But it's not that easy. It wasn't. And everything is evidence. The baby oil is fucking evidence, because it's proof. When you got 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, what the fuck you need that for if you're not holding enormous orgies? Now, like I said, orgies can be legal. That's not the point. His weren't. And that is proof that those things were happening. They were taking place. By the way, Sally bought a membership for JT. Thank you very much, Sally. Oh, you sent me the indictment? Okay, I'll read it after the show. Well, or tomorrow. It's Shanna time tonight. So, it really is fascinating. I mean, and again, the bail thing, I understand now completely. Like Nadu was talking about, like Castellano, even he had bail and stuff like that, but it's different. You know what I mean? It's different. It's not the flight risk they're worried about. It's the fact that his crimes took place at his home. So they can't risk. It's just like when you're put on bail, say in a drug case, one thing they tell you is that if you know who the CI is, you better have zero fucking contact with them. Don't call them. Don't say hi to them in the street. Nothing. Okay? So imagine if they put a man who was committing his crimes in his home back into his home. And Diddy, this motherfucker is a pervert of epic proportions. He's a fucking freak. Okay? So what do you think? He's just going to be sitting in there celibate? He's not going to be fucking? And of course, again, he still has power over people. They're not going to take the chance that he's, starts having sex with one of his fucking staff in his house or something. And they might be doing it only to keep their job. He's not, they're not going to chance that. His crimes took place at home. That was his biggest fucking mistake. If they all took place at hotels, it's like, okay, we'll have a tracking device. We won't let you go to no hotels. But they took place at home. So he's got a serious problem. And I don't see any possible way they're going to give him bail at any point. This case is really, really, really twisted. And everything is part of it. Every fucking thing. That not only were you bringing these people to your home from all over the world, but you were pretty much immediately pumping them full of drugs, and you had them having sex with you and other people so you could watch and masturbate and all this crazy shit. And then they got to get this IV treatment to rehydrate them and everything else. Oh my fucking God. Wow. Just because of all the drugs and all the physical exertion and everything. That is insane. Then, of course, the video of Cassie trying to get away and him beating her. Now, somebody said yesterday in the comments something like he beat her because she accused him of R-ing her. Well, he probably did R her, and I don't even know if that's why he beat her. It doesn't matter. The point is he beat her. There's no excuse for kicking a woman and beating her like that. No excuse. I don't give a fuck what she did. Okay? And let me tell you, if it is because she accused him of R-wording her, that's even worse for him, because that's proof that even while it was happening, she was accusing him of doing that to her, which means he probably was, right? But the way I understand it, she was running away, trying to get away. She didn't want to be there. And he dragged her back in there, kidnapping. So you got the kidnapping, you got the fact that, there's money, there's tons of money involved. They said that he had people delivering him large sums of cash for these commercial sex workers he was flying in. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God. He is finished. That is fucking terrible. And the guns and the fucking drugs and the fucking, what was I going to say? I don't remember. There's just so much. It all comes together to build one case, and some of it seems innocent. Like it's not illegal to have lube or baby oil. Of course not. But if you have 1,000 bottles of it, okay, and they're building a case in front of a jury, the jury's going to say, well, they can't deny these things took place because what the fuck do you have 1,000 bottles of lube for? I mean, how much fucking was going on that you need 1,000 bottles of lube? Holy shit. Guys, by the way, there's only 73 of you, but I need people to donate today. Dead serious. Here's the situation. If I don't make money on this show, Shanna is going to kill me. And I mean it. I mean, actually murder me as soon as the show is over. Do you guys want me to die? Especially on a Saturday evening? That's fucked up. Okay, so I need everybody who can donate, even if it's $1. Please donate. I'd appreciate it. Yesterday, nothing. Day before, nothing. Come on, guys. I mean, not nothing, but not much. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing something different here. Prove to me that I could do different things, that I don't have to be sitting here talking about Tony fucking Pizza to make money. Do that for me. Oh, shit. No, I didn't beat BTF Phoenix. No, hold on. Oh, a deal's a deal, as promised 17 minutes ago. And the show started 21 minutes ago. There you go. You were not bullshitting. $100. Thank you very, very much, BTF Phoenix. Now, do me a favor and encourage everybody to donate, because they'll see that and they'll be like, $100. He's good. $100 for a day? You kidding me? Thank you, BTF. That's awesome of you. Now, what I want to do on this show is anybody who wants to, come up on the panel and talk about it, let's do it. Because everybody's got their own opinions. You guys probably know shit that I don't know. I probably and maybe know a thing or two that you don't know. So let's have a conversation. I'm going to drop the link right now. I'm going to hear BTF Phoenix's voice for the first time. There we go. Now all I need is my earbuds. Guys, you know what? It was a very good day today. Very good day. I was very happy. Had a good time all day. Now tonight I'll be spending time with my Shanna, which is my favorite thing to do. And I'm looking forward to talking to everybody about this situation on this show right here. And who knows, it might wind up being a very long show. And also, maybe some of you will donate. I'm not going to let that go, guys. I am not going to let that go. I'm going to keep bringing it up. Here is BTF Phoenix. Welcome.
Hi, hang on 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I just had to turn off the volume on YouTube.
No
Hello,
problem.
Mr. FBS. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So now you hear my voice for the first time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Good.
I think the StreamYard is weird. I don't see the YouTube chat anymore.
Oh, are you doing it on your phone?
No, my laptop. I guess I'm not on the YouTube tab anymore.
Oh, well, if you're on StreamYard, up on the right, it should say comments or something. You should be able to click on it and see the
Okay.
comment.
Okay, got it. Got it.
You got it?
Yes. Okay. Just to preface this, if I go on too much, you have my permission to kick me in the keister and off. Okay.
No, I want to hear what you have to say because you obviously know a hell of a lot more about this than I do.
Okay. So I want to go back to Cassie's original civil suit. I don't know if you know much about that civil suit.
Nothing about it. I know nothing.
So prior to her filing that civil suit, she had been trying for years to get back her money from her record deal that she had with Bad Boy Entertainments. She was just, and she really was just, she probably was asking for maybe 5 million at the most.
Yeah.
Because she just wanted the money. She wanted him to leave her alone, to stop stalking her. She was in a new relationship already. She just wanted him to stop. And he refused because he felt he had everything over her. Because she can't do anything. The statute of limitations was up if she was going to accuse him of awing her.
Yeah, yeah.
So now what ended up happening was New York State passed legislation called the Adult Survivors Act. Now that was enacted and effective November of 22 through November of 23. And what that means is that if you were awed, and let's say it happened over 7 years ago, beyond the statute of limitation, you have this 1 year period to file a civil lawsuit.
After the criminal statute of limitations is up.
Yes, but you cannot file criminally against them, but you can file civilly against them.
Gotcha, yeah.
So that's what she ended up doing. She filed only a couple of days before the expiration of that Survivors Act. She filed it on November 16th of 2023.
Okay.
So
and it was going to expire soon after that?
So it expired on November 24th, 2023. Now, if you just think back in New York, because of that legislation, over 2,500 cases were filed regarding abuse. And if you think back to remember what happened with Trump and that lady that sued him?
Yeah, Jean Carroll, yeah.
Yeah, she sued him under the Adult Survivors Act. That's why she was able to file her lawsuit.
I did not know that.
So, so if you can do it very easily. If you pull up a document, just type in Google Cassandra Ventura court documents. Her civil suit was 64 pages. They only showed 32 or 35 of those pages. It's very explicit in what she said was done. Many incidents of what he did, a lot of the stuff that came out in the current federal indictment against him. Now, you know that specific civil suit, he settled 24 hours later.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you pull up the document, my belief is the reason he settled is because Epic Records forced him to settle.
Oh.
If you look at the civil lawsuit, she names Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainments, and Epic Records, where she is the employee and he was her supervisor or
Yep.
the
See.
director. So now what happens is labor laws come into effect. You can't have, naive secretary, being coerced, like she's going to lose her job if she doesn't F the boss, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
So, and the reason Epic Records was named in this lawsuit is because when she made her 10-year record deal, it was herself with Bad Boy Entertainments / Epic Records as a partnership.
Okay.
And Epic Records is a subsidiary of Sony Music.
Okay.
So you're talking about big bucks. They do
Of course.
not want this to affect the Sony brand. So they forced him to settle. There was no way they would ever want this to come out in court or it to be implied that they had knowledge of what he was doing to her.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, did he continue on as supervisor? I mean, they knew this happened and they just let him.
No, he was her boss because of Bad Boy Records.
Oh,
He's
gotcha.
the director of Bad Boy Records. So
Yeah.
sometimes when you do if you do a brand deal with another company, it's very common that a small record label and a larger record label will combine to say they want to cover an artist. Like we want to do a 2-year contract with Taylor Swift. So it'll be UMG and let's say Arista Records or something. Like they'll combine their companies for the budget for this specific artist.
That's what rappers do it constantly. They've been doing it for decades.
Yeah. So so in her civil suit, there are 27 pages we do not have access to. And I believe that is going to be part of the current federal indictment against him in terms of further proof of other incidents.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Eric Foss said it yesterday that we haven't seen the discovery yet. So we don't even know all the evidence they have and stuff.
No. And I do think that the current indictment that is against Diddy right now, this is just a placeholder. The feds got what they wanted. They wanted him indicted. They are draining him financially because these lawyers, he's also fighting against 12 other civil lawsuits.
Yeah.
With,
12?
SA abuse, right? So he's paying them at least 10 to 20,000 a day.
Oh my
at
God.
least. Because you got to remember, it's not just a lawyer you're paying the firm. You're paying for all the billable hours. You're paying for all the investigations that they have to do, the research they have to do. And we haven't even gotten to trial yet.
That's crazy. So he's going to be broke. I mean, he's going to be ruined.
Yes. But the current case is not going to be, it's not going to be the women, unfortunately, that he SA'd 20 years ago. Okay, all the other civil lawsuits. It's going to be about Cassie. And then there's another guy, I don't know if you read up on him, his name is Lil Rod.
Yeah, I was listening to some stuff about him today.
His is from, his abuse was from 2022 to 2023. So he's within the statute of limitations.
Okay, good.
So, and then I would think that in terms of the cooperating witnesses or the people that flip, it's going to be Young Miami. It's going to be Daphne Joy. it's going to be, he had another more recent ex-girlfriend, Gina, an Asian girl,
Okay.
and probably a number of the sex workers in the videos. Because if you know about the raid, they took hundreds of videos from his home.
I heard about
So,
that. Yeah.
so chances are, even if it's videos where Cassie's involved or Young Miami is involved, those are the more recent ones. And those will be the people that are cooperating. Otherwise, they're going to be conspirators. And right now, the way the indictment is written, it's just him as the person being accused. It's not Diddy and 20 other people.
Yeah.
Now, I
They
wanted to
said
tell
they
you,
had, not to cut you off, they said that I was just listening when they raided, I guess, they got tons of thumb drives and flash drives and video surveillance and everything else,
yes,
that basically proves that all these people were there and taking part in all this shit. And I think
mhm,
there's videos obviously of the freak offs themselves.
yes. And because of the way the indictment is written, he is not going to, it doesn't matter if he isn't in the video itself. He's the kingpin of the organization.
Yeah.
So whatever the charges are, so like let's say somebody in his group is charged with drug trafficking, let's say. Doesn't matter that Diddy wasn't there to do the purchase.
No.
Because he's the boss of the enterprise, he goes down for that.
That's Rico, yeah.
So that's the same thing with the videos. He doesn't have to be in the videos. The other thing I wanted just to tell you about is regarding the hotel video.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about, okay, casinos are one thing. They have cameras everywhere, in every hallway, elevator, along the casino tables, above them, everywhere. And there are people that sit in front of banks of monitors and watch live feeds and monitor everything.
Yeah, no
It's
doubt.
very different in a hotel, even a high-end hotel. Those are cameras that are motion activated and electronically hardwired to the elevators, doors, and smoke
Jesus.
detectors. So in other words, if you have let's say you're on the 3rd floor, you go take the elevator up to the 5th floor of a hotel where your room is,
Yeah.
right? As soon as the elevator pings on that floor, it activates the cameras because it's not going to
Oh,
be
okay.
filming nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, yeah.
And the same thing if you're in your room and you turn your door, because that's like with the electronic key card. If you
Yeah.
turn your door, but you don't step out, it still will start filming for the few seconds. And after
Oh
a few
shit.
seconds, if nobody comes out, it's not going to film. But otherwise, these cameras are dormant.
Oh, okay.
So then what happens is, because you don't have the budget to set up in the basement of your hotel to have a humongous security room where 50 guys are looking at 2,000 monitors.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. So
Of
what you
course.
will have is you will assign, let's say, 3 or 4 guys a day in 8-hour shifts to look at old footage just to make sure nothing illegal happened. And then they have to save it, keep it for 3 months. But if there's anything illegal that happens, they're supposed to hand it over to the police.
Oh, all right. So 3 months, that's how long?
Mhm.
Okay.
3
That
months
makes
is what
sense.
they normally keep it for, but they keep it off site. But then if there is something criminal that happened, like let's say a guest got robbed,
Yeah.
they will keep that for years until the case is resolved.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, of course.
Okay.
And like you said, they have to hand it over to police anyway.
So the video you saw of what happened, you
Hmm.
didn't see all of the video
No.
because there's a part where he went around the corner. And then there's a point where you see him throwing stuff at her with a
Yeah.
vase. So there's cameras there. They're motion activated. There's footage of that. of what he was
Oh,
doing. There should
we
be
just haven't
footage.
seen.
It was not released, and there's
Yeah.
footage probably of him dragging her back up into the room. There's also footage of the people that were getting off that floor, on that floor, to go and have the freak off. So there's video of his own security, his thugs that make sure Cassie stays where she is. There's video of the other sex workers that were probably sent in. There's video of his own personal staff that set up the rooms, that came back a couple of days later to clean up those rooms.
I was listening to something about that today too.
So there's a ton of stuff, just because we're seeing certain things, we're not seeing everything. For
Yeah, I
all
know.
we
Well, that's
know, go ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just gonna say that's the thing about when the discovery comes out. It's gonna we're gonna find out a lot of new information.
For all we know, when there's a part where Cassie grabbed the security phone
Yeah.
in the hallway. She tried to grab that phone on the wall. It should have activated security. Maybe there's footage of security actually coming up.
Oh, yeah. Maybe there is.
In her civil suit, she talks about that specific event. And she talks about how Diddy sent his person down to security and they paid $50,000 for that video to destroy that
Oh,
footage.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my fucking God.
So there's rumors that the feds got that video in the raid. But what I think happened is that the security person, before Diddy's people came down, I think that person made their own copy and then handed off a separate copy to Diddy and said, okay, here, give me my money. And then he just kept it for insurance.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
That's what I think. I don't know if that's true.
So let me ask you this though: in the lawsuit, does she say that the reason that happened was because she was trying to get away from one of the freak off parties?
Yeah.
And he wasn't.
I mean, the different things that I've read in that specific document was how often she tried to get away, that it was really him that first introduced her to drugs. And when he got her addicted, he then, as a person that I guess is young and she's an artist and she is trying to make it in the industry. And now that she has, so to speak, allegedly participated once because she's so high or knocked out, he used that against her to manipulate her as, well, now you're screwed, because if you go out with it, who's going to believe you? I'm just going to say that you're somebody that is a hoe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I heard
just
that
want
too,
my
that
money.
they would get them involved. And once the people were already, involved in these freak offs and shit, then they would use that against them, or he would use that against them to keep them participating in this shit. You know what I mean? He would use videos and stuff against them to make sure that they don't try to get out of being involved in this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you know about Diageo?
No.
Okay. Diageo is a humongous liquor company. They bring in like 20 billion a year.
Jesus Christ.
All right. So we're talking about a lot of money. Now, years ago, I think in 2007, they made an agreement with Diddy for him to sort of be like the brand ambassador of Ciroc. You remember
Ciroc?
Ciroc?
That I know. Yeah, I know about that.
Okay. So they own Ciroc. So they also own Johnny Walker, Tanqueray, Kettle One, Smirnoff. They're very big. They're huge. So I think it was very lucrative because the way it was promoted, he's a hip hop mogul, black, rich, jet setting, club goer, He just represented a lifestyle, and with the liquor that was being sold as him being the face of, it was affordable, the price point. So if you really like want to, it's like when somebody likes a designer, like let's say Versace, right? Or Gucci. And well, I could afford the cologne. I can't afford the clothes, but I could afford the cologne. It's that kind of
Yeah,
mentality. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So it was an item that was pushed to a very specific market, and they were able to sell a lot of it because of that, the way Diddy was branded.
yeah,
Okay. So it was a very lucrative business for Diddy as the sort of ambassador. It was like a marketing partnership, but Diageo is the one that's putting out the money. All right. So
yeah.
Diddy's getting paid to do the commercials. He's being paid to go to the clubs to make appearances. He's being paid for all the print ads. And 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 he was also being paid a commission if he was getting, let's say, some restaurant franchise that he came along and convinced them to carry Ciroc vodka, in their bar, in their restaurant. So he got paid a commission, but he wanted more, and he thought that he could twist Diageo's and manipulate them the way he has manipulated, let's say, artists under Bad Boy,
Yeah.
and how he takes advantage of people. That's how he does business. He threatens, he bullies, he manipulates. And, you can't do that with a big company. But what he did do was he convinced Diageo in 2013. I want to now promote De Leon tequila.
Yeah.
So they agreed. All right. They own De Leon. They agreed. All right. But like, I guess Diddy felt he wanted equity as opposed to you're kind of more like a paid ambassador. You're not, when we're doing a marketing partnership, we're not partners. You're not putting up 50% of the money.
Yeah. No.
Diageo is the money, right? So he convinced them, and they said, no, we're going to give you a similar deal to what we had with Ciroc, but not as much, because the market at this point is oversaturated. Every freaking celebrity has tequila.
Yeah, they do.
All right. So they did give him a budget. It wasn't as much as they did with Ciroc. And they were at that point starting to try to distance themselves with Diddy. I think they gave him that deal to shut him up, but I do believe they were already hearing rumors about his antics.
Oh.
And I don't think because the rumors have been around that Diddy puts stuff in the liquor bottles, right?
Yeah.
And spiking them and put it and giving them to victims, so to speak. How horrible is it if he was putting it into Ciroc
Ciroc.
liquor?
Yeah.
How horrible is that? So they were trying to distance themselves with him. So do you know what Diddy did?
What?
He started threatening them that I'm going to sue you if you don't, and he pulled the race card.
No.
So he filed a lawsuit against them in 2023, like in January 2023. He files a lawsuit against them and says, they're racist. It's because I'm black. I don't get the same budget as other companies because I'm black, and my clientele is the urban clientele, and basically, and when you F with a multi-billion-dollar company, they will get you. I think
Of course.
it's Diageo that started the investigate. I think they whispered into the ears of the feds, or or let's say they knew people that could get to the ears that, hey, we think that he might be doing something with our product, and we don't want to be associated. So could you at least look into this to see if
That's
these
brilliant.
rumors are
They did.
something along
And
those
they're
lines?
covering their ass at the same time for when something,
Yes.
possibly does come out like this. Yeah.
But then what happened is January of 24, Diddy withdrew his case and it was dismissed with prejudice, which means he can never
Yeah. You can never.
bring about another case against
Yeah.
Diageo. But and then the rumors started going around from his camp that Diageo paid him a whole bunch of money because they knew that he was wrong. But in actuality, they got out of paying him nothing because Cassie's lawsuit was settled in 2023 of November, and they got out of paying him anything because of the morality clause in a contract.
Oh, that's why. Oh,
Most contracts, people don't look at the fine print. There's a morality clause.
of
And if there's
course.
any kind of, it's like saying an actress, she's the new face of a new mother and being sponsored by doing Pampers commercials. And then it comes
Yeah.
out that she beats her kids.
No, of
You're gonna,
course. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gonna break the contract immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know any of that.
So I do think that they've been investigating him much longer. I do believe they've been wiretapping him for years, at least 2 years.
Really?
Well, where did they get the probable cause to raid his homes?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that part of it.
You
I
know,
don't know.
so let's pretend that they hadn't been wiretapping. You don't think that after they did the federal raids and found all those videotapes that they did
Oh,
not
then they
start
will.
wiretapping him?
After that, definitely.
And prior, right around, I don't remember the timing, but the guy that bought him drugs all the time, this guy named Brandon, they arrested him and found drugs on him. So wouldn't they have wiretapped him and even people around him from that point? You know what I'm saying? And
Well, not just
especially with
that, but
Cassie stuff.
yeah, not just that, but could he possibly be a CI? Because as far as being able to raid him, sometimes, like in drug cases, all you need is a CI to sign an affidavit. That he saw certain things or certain things are in somebody's house, and then they got 72 hours to raid the house. So maybe, or did they? Did they arrest Brandon after the raid or before?
I think the day that they were raiding Diddy's homes, because it was multiple states. I think it was Florida, California, and maybe New York. I forgot where. But at the same time, they stopped Diddy at the airport.
Yeah, I
And
remember
that's
that.
where they arrested that guy, Brandon, the guy
Oh,
that buys
okay.
him
So it was,
drugs.
yeah. All right. So they already they had some other way of getting a warrant to raid him before that.
Yeah, I do think they've been wiretapping him for some time.
That's crazy.
So I hope what I said to you is informative.
Oh,
And
hell yeah! I just learned a
and,
lot.
and I'm not a lawyer. This is entertainment only. A lot of the stuff I said is just my own theory.
No, no. Listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I want to see if anybody else wants to come up and join the conversation.
Yes, so I'm gonna jump down. Somebody else jump up.
All right.
It was very nice meeting you and
You
speaking with
too.
you.
Thank you so much for everything, DTF.
Okay, no problem. Bye.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right. There you go. See that? I'm learning more and more. I think I'm gonna start really, really researching this case and doing a lot of shows on it because it's interesting. And like I said yesterday, right up until, shit, not even until trial, during trial and everything else. We're going to find out more and more every day, and it's going to be a long time till trial. And maybe not every day, maybe every week, but little stuff will come out here and there. Little stuff will come out here and there, and we'll find out more details. And who knows, who might come forward. Like I saw somebody said in the comments about when Harvey Weinstein, when they came out against him, a lot of people came out of the woodwork. Nobody is with Diddy. Different. It might be just people are different. Maybe the people he was involved with, they don't want to. They don't want to volunteer this information yet, but we'll see. Here's Jesse.
Hey guys.
Hello, Jesse.
Hello. Is Phoenix gone?
Yeah, I don't know why she jumped off. She could have stayed on.
I'm sad I missed her. She seems like a very sweet lady.
Yeah, she does. She
And
is a sweet lady.
she's absolutely spot on with most of what she said. And I only say most because there's different other things that I've heard of. I mean, as far as the videotaping, every location has different policies on that, like how long they keep it. Like we only keep ours where I work. We keep ours. We have an outside source that keeps it for 3 months, but we only keep ours on site for a month. And with that said, if anything happens and we need to pull the tape, now this is not a law, it's just a company policy, and it's been a company policy any place I've ever worked with video cameras. Before you pull the tapes, there has to be a police report. Um,
Okay.
again, again, like I said, that's not necessarily law. That's just always been company policy. As far as the hotel Cassie was in, they might have had a different system where she was saying it only records with motion. Ours will record constant and then loop over every 30 days.
Well, I think she was talking specifically about casinos.
Right. Oh, okay. All right. That's what I mean. It
Yeah.
might have been a difference. But there are differences in that. Like ours will, ours will film constantly, but they record with motion. So it's like some, some will be dark and then they'll pop on with motion. Ours are constantly filming because I have to sit there and watch it all day. Um, as far as the liquor, she's on to something there. Um, the only thing is if the liquor companies had something to do with it. Liquor is controlled state to state. So they would have had to go to the state, like the liquor company would have had to
Uh-huh.
go to the state level. But that doesn't mean they couldn't have turned around and went federal if he had a contract with that brand in multi-states. So she's right about that. With liquor and all that stuff, liquor companies have to be very, very careful with that because they could be held liable.
Of course. Without a
Um,
doubt.
with Diddy, I think they've been watching him at the very least. I think Keefe D was arrested, I think, a month before Cassie's lawsuit was settled. I think Keefe
Oh,
D. I think Keefe D getting arrested had a lot to do with them watching him as well.
yeah, it might. It might have.
Um, Now, in that situation, it might have been because of the M's of Biggie and Tupac. But when you get what do they call that? The right to watch them. Like when you get a warrant that you're allowed to watch, probable cause. When you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
probable cause and you find something else on it, you know, I think if you go back to the warrant and the original judge and you say, hey, we were looking for this crime, but we found that one, that might be where they picked up on a lot of stuff too. Now, a lot of these rumors have been going around for years and years. And I think either Keefe D or Cassie's lawsuit is what set off the big warrants for the raids and everything.
Probably.
Oh, what was I gonna say? I think that's what set it off. But after they raided his houses, I was keeping on top of it. After they raided his houses, they went all the way back to when he was in college, and there was a big cover up at the college with an essay accusation there too.
Oh, really?
So they're going back years with this stuff.
Oh.
Now, a lot of it they probably can't use. A lot of it, the statutes are out, they can't use it, but it's a pattern.
Can I just say something? Hi, Jesse.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi. Nice to meet you.
you too.
I didn't really talk about like the Justin Bieber or the Usher or Kim Porter or Tupac or all these other people because as I was really just trying to concentrate what the current indictment is.
Oh no, I
And
understand.
it's not going to cover any of that, unfortunately, because
The statutes are up
look,
on a lot
it's
of it.
not just that the statutes are up. Look at the wording of the 14-page indictment.
Right. They're very specific.
It's very specific in terms of sex trafficking, and the sex trafficking the statute is 5 years.
Right.
These SA, I don't know if sexual assault is in there, but that's like if he raped somebody, that's 7 years. So I don't know what the statute of limitations is for kidnapping, because that is mentioned in the indictment, and I do think that has to do with him not letting her leave.
Right.
And
Probably.
I don't think it's just that specific freak off party at that hotel that we know.
No,
We
it's
have
probably
video.
more current ones.
There's
I think you're
more.
right. Yeah, it's probably the more current ones because
Yes.
just the general idea of him holding stuff over people's heads, that is a form of not only R, like FBS said, but it's also a form of, I would guess kidnapping because you're blackmailing people, basically. You know.
Yeah.
See, there's a I believe there are like 7 women who did use that Adult Survivors Act to bring charges, civil lawsuits against him. I don't think those women will be part of this trial.
No, but they'll have their own civil cases, right?
Yes, they'll have their own civil cases, but the reason they would not be part of this trial is because those cases are open. They have not gone to trial. So
Right.
you can't, they can't go up and say, he R'd me, 10 years ago. Well, was he convicted? There's an accusation versus criminal, even civilly settled. If you don't have a settlement or a guilty on a criminal, that cannot be used as evidence in a trial.
Well, which was the one? There was one that someone was asked to hold off on theirs because the feds did want to get involved. Do you remember which one that was?
You're talking about Little Rodney's case. Little Rodney,
maybe it was his.
Little Rodney is.
I thought it was a female, but I could be wrong. I do remember.
I can tell you there is a female who allegedly when the actual incident occurred, she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one where one of his buddies in the music industry flew her in from Michigan to New York. Then they drove her to Jersey where they gang raped her.
I don't remember.
And so that case, because she was a minor, the statute of limitations is very different.
Right. No, but there was one that was going on a few months back, and I cannot remember whose it was. It might have been Little Roddy's. I don't know. For some reason, I thought it was a woman. But there was one case that was getting ready to go through, and they asked them to hold off on it because the feds needed to get in there first, and are not to open it yet, because if there's an open case, it will affect other things.
Well, in terms of all the civil lawsuits, the excuse that Diddy's camp is using of why well, first, what they did before this indictment ever came down is that they said that, they just kept filing for continuances. They're not,
Yes.
they're filing motion after motion to suppress or to get rid of or to dismiss the case. And now with the federal indictment, those lawsuits will be set aside, and Diddy's camp's excuse is he needs all of his finances to concentrate on this for his criminal defense.
Right.
He cannot be going to trial for this one, suing me civilly for an incident from 1993, when all my money right now and my resources needs to go to my criminal defense so that I stay out of jail or I don't go to prison.
Right. Well, and another thing I wanted to say to you, I'm glad you brought up that record industry info, because I was actually thinking about, I was driving on my way to work this morning, I'm thinking about, and I'm like, a lot of those record labels are all smaller subsidiaries of these bigger record labels. There are so many people that are going to go down for this. Like it's not just the hip hop community. It's going to affect a lot of different record companies that cover pretty much probably everybody we all listen to.
No, it's not. I don't believe it.
Well, the record execs will. It will.
No, I don't
Not
believe
the
it.
artists, but
No. You see,
Think they have deniability?
No, to me, it's similar to what happened with Epstein. You cannot tell me that Epstein wasn't working with 20 other people, that whether they were transporting these these girls to his island, and he was doing things to them, and that a lot of people didn't know, whether they used doctors or whatever to care for these women, and that there weren't actual videotapes of people in very high up places.
Oh, I can guarantee there were. You're right.
And who went to jail? Just Ghislaine. That's it. There's no way that Ghislaine and Jeffrey did everything. I mean, yes, they did the crimes, but they had that should have been a RICO. So with Diddy, he is the face of this. Right. So the person above, let's say like a Lucian Grange of UMG, or Clive Davis, they're not going to go down for
not as hard, but they're gonna be either asked to be witnesses or whatever. I mean, they're not gonna not be affected by this.
I don't see how they would be pulled into this specific indictment. Maybe an indictment down the road, especially if they build a case against minors.
The difference with, and minors are always a different story. The difference though with Epstein was Epstein paid himself. All right. So once Epstein pays himself, there's nobody to talk about connecting this one to that one and this one and down the line. You see what I'm saying? Had he not done that, there might have been a lot more people that went down. Yeah. But you have to have somebody there to connect them.
See, and that's where I think that they will not go down, period, because they're too valuable, so to speak. They're too high up in it. So, if Clive Davis or Lucian Grange are not in any of these videos, all right, or let's say they are,
Right.
Are they on the videos for this specific indictment, which is mainly Cassie and Lil Rod as the victims? And then in regards to the sex workers, because it's two separate things. It's Cassie, Little Rod as victims, and then you've got, let's say, like a Young Miami that may be a corroborating witness, and then you've got the sex workers. So who is, let's say, how would you bring Clive or Lucien Grange into this indictment? As what? What is the premise for bringing them in? There's no predicate for bringing them in.
Good point. Are you a lawyer, BTF?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. This is entertainment only, and this is only my theory. Okay.
Okay.
Only.
Well, you're right, though. No, there has to be something that connects them. You're absolutely right. However, if that's ever found, that's going to pull them in.
But no, not really. Not on this indictment. That's why I keep talking about this specific. Look at the wording of this specific indictment.
Right, but they're still building the case. They're still looking for stuff.
What I guess what I'm saying.
This trial's not going to happen for a long time.
Okay. I think this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that I believe in this specific indictment. It did what the feds wanted to do. It got him in jail. He was denied bail the first day. They appealed. He was denied again. So he stays there until the trial date, which is buying the feds 2 years at least for them to investigate other things.
Right, and that's what I mean. So you're right.
So there
you're
could
right.
be
On this specific indictment, maybe no.
Yes.
Maybe no.
So there's going to be a separate indictment, I see, down the road. So let's say down the road. To me, this is a theory, and I'm not a lawyer.
Well, you're just focusing on this one indictment.
Yes.
So I understand that. Yeah. Well, basically, what I meant was down the road, this is going to affect a lot more people.
Yes. So I do think. I think this is just a theory. I think that they will identify victims in these tapes, but this is going to take time. They might already have some of them. They have to identify them. They have to find them. They have to see if they will be credible witnesses or are willing to testify. You know, because these people are traumatized. The minute it happens where it's minors, then another indictment that comes down is going to involve some people that are going to seriously panic.
Well, and another thing too is, now they have conspiracy in there. So right now on this indictment, he's the only one listed.
Yep, he's the only one listed on this indictment.
But they have conspiracy on there, so that opens the door for knowing that there's possibly other people out there. They might have people in mind that we don't even know about that they're going to be talking to. So
I think that there are people that
you can't call it a conspiracy if it's only one person.
I think that there are people that Diddy has not really grasped until now, that a lot of the people that have been working for him have already flipped.
Oh, I'm sure of it. If they're smart, they have.
But my theory of what will happen is once they find a minor and prep them, do all their investigation, get all their evidence. I do also believe that there will be bodies and there will be manslaughter charges. And
really?
And this is, again, just a theory. There is no way that if they have been spiking drinks or whatever to to people where women or men, where it knocks them out unconscious. There is no way in these 30 years that not one person either OD'd
Right.
or had an allergic reaction to something, and
Well,
they died because of it.
somebody
And
brought something up to me a few months back that I never in a bazillion years would have put together. But Anne Heche, her car accident now is looking like it wasn't quite an accident. Um, Now people forget she dated Ellen. Ellen was best friends with Diddy. And she dated Ellen, and apparently, right before she died, she was getting ready to release a tell-all book. So, there could be a bunch of other people we don't know about. You're absolutely right. There could be like bodies popping up places.
I,
Now, I'm
I
not saying she definitely is. I'm just saying it's just something that somebody brought to my attention, and I went, "Oh, hey, wait a minute." You know
and
what
what
I
I'm
mean?
and what I'm specifically talking about is somebody that went to one of these parties as a guest, a
Yeah.
girlfriend of or whatever. No, not anybody famous, just somebody that was there that they thought they could victimize. She took a drink of a spiked whatever. Not necessarily that she OD'd, but what if, people are allergic to all kinds of things. People
Right.
are allergic to, let's say, codeine. I'm allergic to codeine, right?
Right.
People are allergic to penicillin. So you never know how someone's going to react to a pharmaceutical, because
Mhm.
it's not like he bought 10 years of drugs. He's buying these in batches, and you don't know what you're getting with each batch. It's different.
And that's
You don't,
another
Absolutely.
thing. That's another thing I recently heard of within the past couple days. Apparently, he's got a connection to the cartel with the amount of drugs that he was buying.
You think?
yes. Can I tell you the rumor that I heard?
Yeah, go
Sure.
ahead.
Okay, so Ellen DeGeneres, yes, is supposedly somebody that possibly could be in some of these tapes. All right. Now, what I heard is,
The
if you
fuck? Who?
remember the co-host that she had on her show Twitch,
Yes. Didn't he die?
he committed, he offed
Yes.
himself.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
rumor
Yes.
is that he offed himself because he either ended up being a participant
Or found out
and
about it,
or was a victim, got spiked, and he couldn't deal with it.
I think I've heard that before. I've heard so much reading into this, but yeah, I do remember Twitch died, and it was kind of funny.
Yeah, so
I
again,
didn't know
that's just
anything
a,
about that.
yeah, yeah. Because it was so shocking to people that either it could have been that, he was being blackmailed because they had a
Hmm.
video of him, and
Uh-huh.
he's putting out money. Ellen's show got canceled, and where's he going to get the money to pay them?
Right, right. Well, and like I said, I mean, yeah, I brought up Anne Heche just as an example,
Be
being
right
so
back, guys. I got
close.
to use the bathroom.
Okay.
Yes.
I brought up Anne Heche just as an example, being so close to Ellen and Ellen being friends with him.
Mhm.
But you're right, it could be an unknown. It doesn't have to be anybody famous. It could be somebody that was, went to one of these parties, got offended, and they were worried they were going to talk. Or it could have been somebody they tried to blackmail. You're absolutely right. It could be anybody,
Yeah.
you know?
There are, with all the, if you think about just one device, all right,
Hmm.
let's say, because it wasn't just the videos that they got when they did the raid.
No,
They
they got
got
everything.
they got phones and computers.
Yeah,
Do
they
you
got
know how
everything.
long it would take just to go through one person's text messages, images, photo gallery, emails, everything? That is just one device.
It would take a long time, correct? But don't they
Yes.
have now? Don't they have now, like, or at least working on, like you could plug the phone into, putting keywords and key conversations that it could look for specifically, like, kind of like,
Yes, if you put in certain
artificial
keystrokes.
intelligence.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they could do
Yeah.
that. So that'll slim the time down. But even still, you're absolutely right. That's still going to take a long time.
Yes, and even if you let's even just take, let's say, a video. Let's say there's a video of a freak off, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these people are unknown, and it's not like when you're looking at the video, their first and last name is going to come up.
Right. Right.
All right. And if they are let's say they are a sex worker,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it their real name anyway?
Right. Or if they're even from this country.
Or if it's from 5 years ago, are you
Right.
going to find them now?
Right.
I think it's a lot of evidence. What I really love is if somebody understood this whole process. I would love to know if somebody knew when they have to hand over the list of cooperating witnesses to Diddy. I would really love to know when that process happens.
I don't know. I don't know the exact process, but obviously it has to be sometime before the trial, obviously.
Well, it
but
has to be way before the trial
Right.
begins because it's discovery and the
they have
defense
to have
needs
time
the
to
time.
look it over. Right.
Yes.
They have to have time to look it over. Like, if it's a simple file, they could give them, like, and when I say file, I mean a folder with paperwork. They could give them 10 days, but this kind of evidence, they might have to give them 6 months.
Hey, FPS.
What's that?
FPS. Is
I don't
FPS here?
Looks
Sorry,
like
I was muted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody else in the chat want to come up? That's all. I really just didn't want to take up your time. Like Butterfly Kisses was talking a lot yesterday, and a
Right,
bunch
even
of
if they
other
want
people.
to, you're more than welcome to stay up here.
I just wanted to see, I would like for other people to come up. I think it's, they have. I know Butterfly Kisses had a lot of interesting stuff to say in yesterday's chat.
Yeah.
Would she come up? Would Dux come up? Because Dux was talking about it. This
I
can't
don't
be
know if Dux
wrong.
is here.
Anybody?
Yeah, we need to get some people up here. The fuck? Tell him, BTF.
Drop
Don
the
Berlin.
link.
How about Don?
And Don, and if there's anybody that is here that is not on FBS's this channel normally, he has another channel called the No Magazone. So please subscribe there.
Thank you, BTF.
And please donate. Please donate if you can.
Great lady you
Yeah,
are,
donate,
Venus.
guys. Come on.
Please donate. Look at my avatar. Don't resist that face.
You can. How could you?
What is
Miss Can't Be Wrong is coming on.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, then let's
Now,
see if Don will
she's the
come on
one-
too. Don's an expert in this shit.
Miss Can't Be Wrong gets me a lot of information when I do my shows, so she's a good one to have up here.
Yeah.
She's the one that actually started explaining to me the exact drug that, like the cocktail that he makes.
What is it?
You're talking about Tucci?
Yeah, it's called Tucci. It's a mixture of a bunch of different drugs and alcohol.
No, are you talking about the Diddy thing, the pink cocaine? That's Tucci?
No, Tucci, from what I understand, was like drugs mixed with a drink.
No, Tucci is a powder. So the Tucci is ketamine and cocaine, or GHB and cocaine. But that
maybe
is
that's
what
it. That could be right. You're right.
and
I remember
that
it
is
was a
what is
mixture of
put
drugs.
in the drug.
Yeah, that's what they put it into a drink to give it to people. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
listening. I'm just listening.
I was wondering who the pretty avatar was. I didn't know it was you, Mr. Can't Be Wrong.
Yeah, the avatar is better looking than I am for real.
Well, I'm a lot older than my avatar, if you know.
That's a cute avatar, though. Aw.
It is. So, what do you know about that drug, Miss Campurone?
Well, according to what his security and all have been saying, and Jaguar Wright, is for one thing, the minute the girls would get there, they said they were instructed pass out champagne and pills and that Tucci is supposed to be a combination of what they were saying to get you all relaxed. And when you're all relaxed with that GHB and that ketamine, you're not feeling no pain. So they can do anything to you that they want to do.
Right, and you don't have the
Gotcha.
wherewithal to fight it off.
Right, exactly.
And a lot of times, if it was pink, they have the ecstasy crushed into it.
Yep. That was a popular thing. Ketamine, ecstasy, any of that stuff that was popular on the scene at those parties.
Who's the
Yeah,
dog?
there's a dog on the screen.
Aw.
And a forehead.
That's a little
Hey,
crazy.
Don.
Can you hear me? Is it echoing too much?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. That's Gracie.
Is that Lucy?
Gracie's upset about Dildo. What's his name? Dildo? No, Diddy. Excuse me, Diddy. Sorry.
Dildo.
Sorry.
That's a good name for him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm enjoying the. I didn't know a lot about this particular, case per se. I just know about the rules of federal criminal procedure. But I think in listening to both of you, the two things that I would come away with is that number one. I agree. This is a placeholder indictment. It's simply put there in order to get him into custody, in order to deny him bond, and then to be superseded. It's not going to be a separate indictment. They're going to supersede it. The hint of that is the fact that they charge him with racketeering. So when there's a racketeering count, those can always be amended bigger and bigger and bigger as they get more and more predicate acts that support the overall, common scheme that was involved. And here, sex trafficking, which is movement of women across state lines and or interstate commerce, all they have to do is prove that he got on a phone, used a computer, used a wire to facilitate interstate transportation, and that's enough in order for it to be a predicate act. So I think that the likelihood is very high that they will supersede. And the other thing I agree with is the fact that those raids, obviously the raids were preceded by search warrants. The search warrants required affidavits by the special agent on the case. The special agent had to have had either forensic evidence or, more likely, live witnesses that he spoke to, that he could swear to. You don't need the witnesses for the affidavit, but you do need a swearing agent, and that's the case agent. So there are cooperators that the agent used as a basis to get the search warrants. Once they got the search warrants, then now they have just tons and tons of electronic evidence. And I agree also with what Jesse said, that's going to take a long time to go through. I mean, there are a lot of tools that can be used in order to extract data from metadata and what have you. I mean, in for example, hypothetically, child pornography cases, when they seize a computer, they can tell right away whether that computer has child pornography on it because the imagery is cataloged, and they are using artificial intelligence. They can quickly assess whether or not a computer has offensive materials like that. So but this amount of electronic data, or at least what's publicly claimed, is going to take some time. But either way, he's got a lot of grief. The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll pass it back to others because I want to go on and on. They're not staying the civil cases because preservation of assets to a criminal case. That's not the reason. The reason is that under the federal rules of criminal procedure, once you're indicted, you have the right to plead the fifth in any other proceeding, no matter what it is. And once you do that, it automatically stays that proceeding. Okay, so any lawsuit that is pending now is automatically, effectively, is automatically stayed. Why? Because he cannot be forced to go to trial and violate his Fifth Amendment privileges in a civil
Oh
proceeding
yeah.
and forfeit his rights in a federal criminal proceeding. So what's going to happen is all those cases will stay until the resolution of the criminal case. That's
Yes.
good and bad. The good is that the statute stops, the evidence continues. The only thing that stays is his deposition. Okay, that's the only thing that stays. But if he gets convicted in the criminal case, okay, that dramatically affects what he is required, what the plaintiff in those cases are required to prove in the civil case, because he's convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. Versus in a civil case, it's by the preponderance and the weight of the evidence. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that happens. It's a good and bad situation. All of those victims will have to wait. They're not going to go to trial without his deposition. And he's entitled to be able to testify in those civil cases. And likewise, the plaintiffs are entitled to call him as an adverse witness in those cases. So they're going to stay those cases. But it's not to preserve assets. It's because of Fifth Amendment rights. So anyway.
I
Mr.
did.
Berlin,
Gotcha.
can I ask you a question? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You mentioned two phrases that I'm not familiar with. Can you explain what you mean by what supersede means and what predicate acts means?
So superseding indictment means that essentially the indictment is broadened. So they may add counts, they may add other schemes that he was engaged in. So, for example, another scheme would be, like Chris was saying, there's the trafficking scheme, okay? There also is the extortion scheme. That is to say, the recordation of individuals in the act of some sexual performance, and then being told, if you don't continue to cooperate, I'm going to release these tapes to famous people. Okay, so that's an extortionate transaction scheme, if you will.
So superseding means that it's additional as opposed to replacing the current indictment.
Yeah,
Just adding on.
yeah, they're just adding on.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they're not going to do a parallel indictment or another indictment or whatever, unless it's another jurisdiction. You know, like say hypothetically, use the Hunter Biden case as an example, only because it's popular. So you had the gun case in Delaware, he had the tax case in California. Neither are related to one another. Neither are in the same district. Neither of them were dependent upon one another. Neither included the same scheme. So they have to be charged separately. Okay. That's why it had to be done that way. Okay. They had to charge it separately. I'm not saying that was right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's why it was done. Here, they're charging him with racketeering. Okay. So that's an umbrella charge. It's a charge. So that's an umbrella charge. It's the top charge, the racketeering count. So what they do is they supersede the remainder of the indictment with other predicate acts. That means foundation that allow them to then widen the nature of the conspiracy or the racketeering. That's basically what that means.
Now, is this current indictment a RICO indictment or just racketeering? There's a difference, correct?
Everybody confuses that. There's stairs in federal criminal conspiracy cases. Stairs, STAIRS, not the other. So the stairs are conspiracy, racketeering, RICO. Okay, conspiracy means one or more persons combine, confederate, or conspire to do a predicate act and then carry it out. That's a conspiracy. A RICO is where there are multiple conspiracies of multiple people, okay, that that form a common design or scheme or plan but they could be unconnected. Okay. And you're right when you said he's the kingpin. He would be, on the top side of the racketeering count. And
Mhm.
then above that, so you have conspiracy, you have racketeering, and then RICO is multiple racketeering events. Okay, the full RICO. So what would that be? That would be like in the organized crime world, it would be the family of, say, the Gotti family, hypothetically, are involved with murder, but the ABC family across the country is involved in extortion. Neither of them are in the same kind of business, but they're essentially controlled by the same organization, like the commission trial. Okay, the famous commission trial. That's a typical RICO. And then finally, the top end that's rarely charged, but it does occur in major drug cases, would be CCE, continuing criminal enterprise. That's multiple RICOs. So it goes conspiracy, then racketeering, and then multiple racketeering means a RICO, and then multiple RICOs mean a.
Don, what happened? We
Yeah, I
can't hear.
can't hear him.
Really? Can you hear?
You
How
just
about
got cut
now?
off like
Yes.
15 seconds ago.
Okay. Where did I end? And I'll start again. Where did I end?
Like I said, it was like 10, 15 seconds ago. So it wasn't much we missed.
What were the last words? You have horrible memory, so you can't remember. But the other two
Yeah,
can.
you know better than
What?
that.
What were the last words? So I know how far to go back.
I have a terrible memory sometimes too. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'll do this. Listen, this is what I do when I forget things. Shut up. Shut up, Nancy, you fucking pig. Sorry, I hate Nancy
I was
Grace with a
typing
fucking
in.
passion. What?
Uh-oh.
Fuck. What? What's going on? Miss Can't Be Wrong. We
Now I
hear
can't
you.
hear Miss Can't Be Wrong. Hello?
Yeah,
I hear Don.
yeah,
I'm
I
here.
can.
All right, there you go, Miss Can't Be Wrong. Go ahead.
I mean, I can see her avatar, but I don't see it either lighting up or her. I can't hear her
I don't
speak.
know.
I'm fine. I was
You
letting
heard-
y'all talk. I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right.
No. Here, let's see what Don was saying last.
Well, you were talking about the commission case, and you were talking about how one family and another family.
Did you hear that, Don?
Yeah. So what I was saying is that there are four levels of stairs type federal criminal conspiracy charges. There's conspiracy, and then there is above conspiracy racketeering, and above racketeering is RICO, and above RICO is CCE, continuing criminal enterprise.
Gotcha.
Each one can fold into the other. So multiple conspiracies can equal a racketeering. Multiple racketeering enterprises can equal a RICO. Multiple RICOs can equal a CCE. That's what that means. So in this case, to go back to your original question, the superseding only means that they're going to broaden the present indictment, either more counts, more criminal schemes of some sort or another, more conspiracies, could even be more defendants. I mean, you never know. He could have co-defendants joined into this case in some way or another. It's basically what you were saying before. This is just the beginning. This is a placeholder indictment.
Yes.
It's not a speaking indictment. It's strictly because of different events. It could be a number of different things could have happened that made the feds pull the trigger.
Do you think that they've been wiretapping him and surveilling him for some time?
I think we'll know that early on in the motions that are going to be filed in the New York case in particular. New York is the leading circuit in the country for Title III litigation, meaning intercept litigation. Why? Because most of the organized crime cases that are brought in the country, the big ones, come out of the Second Circuit, meaning New York. Most of those cases always have Title III or wiretap cases. So the judges there are intimately familiar with that type of litigation. It follows a certain pattern and form. We'll know that rather quickly. I would say in the first several months, we'll know whether or not the defense moves to unseal the applications for Title III. Because again, those, like search warrants, require warrants, and those warrants are even more strict than search warrants. Those warrants require reapproval every 90 days, and you have to continue to show the burden to continue the wiretap increases, doesn't decrease. It increases to continue it, and make it ongoing. But the short answer is, do I think? I don't know. I will say that from what's come out so far, publicly, they had to have had a lot of evidence to get. And here's another hint too: a multi-state search warrant. Okay, a multi-state search warrant. The reason why I say that is there's Justice Department policy against multi-state search warrants unless the evidence meets a certain criteria. So that's a key clue here that something was very significant, that the main justice, meaning in Washington, the head of the criminal division, said, I'm going to permit you to apply for a multi-state search warrant. That's if it was all in one state, I could understand it, or say multi-homes only in Florida, or maybe like a home and a boat, maybe that you could understand, or a home, boat, and a car. But multi-homes and multi-states takes a higher level of approval, and there's esoteric reasons why that's the case. But the short summary is this: every U.S. attorney of every jurisdiction is his own king, believe it or not. I mean, it's true. Okay. So the U.S. attorney in Florida, brought in by the U.S. attorney that's running this case in New York, has some discretion. He has some rights to say, I'm going to give it to you, or I'm going to cooperate, or I'm not. Okay. Because it's his jurisdiction. He's responsible to the head of the criminal division for what goes on in his district. So he has the right to say something and do something, either object or go along with it or what have you. So that means it has to go through an interstate compact. Okay. So whenever you have these multi-state seizures like that tells you they had, a significant amount of pre-raid evidence to get that, because the burden is so high to get it. Did I break up?
Sorry.
Again?
No, I was muted. I said, you believe this fucking guy? There's nothing you could ask him he doesn't know the answer to. Nothing. Try it.
Yes, and that's why I'm fascinated. I really have wanted to talk about something like this for a long time, and maybe delve into a person's mind that understands the whole process of a case beginning to end.
Well, I'll tell you, I learned a lot from what you talked about, because I as I said, and I beg my, ignorance. I don't know a lot of the actual facts of this case. I can only tell you about procedure based on the facts you provided or what you believe, and a little bit about what I read. I mean, he's got some serious problems, and I agree with Chris. He's not going to get a bond. It's not possible. I mean,
No, he was already denied.
yeah. He's going to take that up to the Second Circuit.
He was denied twice, and he's still
Yeah,
trying.
exactly. That's it. I don't know.
That's not quite true. He can appeal to the Second Circuit, but I can tell you
He's still trying.
Yeah. But I can tell you that to overturn a district court and then before that a magistrate judge's ruling on a bond issue is incredibly difficult, the burden, because you have to prove that the judge either literally abused his discretion, failed to outline the reasons that he relied upon in order to no bond him, or that his ruling was so outlandish and contrary to prior law that the circuit had no choice but to reverse, none of which is present here. Number one, he did explain the reasons very clearly. The reasons were no amount of bond nor combination of conditions would ensure his next appearance in court. That's number one. Number two, he has a history which is proven in court by clear and convincing evidence. That's all the government is required to prove at a bond hearing, clear and convincing evidence, that he had a history of intimidating witnesses. Okay?
Yeah, I meant to mention that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's number two. Number three, okay, it's what Chris said. The res gestae witnesses, that's the actual witnesses who, could be appearing at trial, and the victims all were at his domicile. Okay. And they're going to return him to the domicile where the scene of the crime occurred. That's not going to happen. So he explained all of that. The judge explained all of that as his rationale. So therefore, he's not abusing his discretion. The courts of appeal defer to district court judges greatly, except when they abuse their discretion. This is not that case. He's not going to get that case reversed. He's not going to get that bond, that ruling reversed. He's in jail until the disposition of this case.
No, the judge brought up that he has a reputation for trying to intimidate witnesses too.
Right. And that was one of the bases for his ruling, whatever. And all I'm saying is that procedurally, again, I'm not opining based on any of the facts. I'm just saying procedurally, okay. The judge in this case did not abuse his discretion. He can appeal all he wants. He's not going to get that case reversed, that ruling reversed. He's going to sit in jail, until, and worse yet, he's in the SHU, which is, not exactly the Peninsula Hotel, at MDC of all places.
Yeah. Terrible place to be. What were you going to say a minute ago, BTF?
Okay, Mr. Berlin, you really fascinate me. So here's another question. How early in this process is Diddy and his team allowed to ask for a plea deal?
Well, they can do that at any time, but they're not going to do that until they get all of the discovery and many of the motions have been made and ruled upon and disposed of. They're a long way away from that. And you think a lawyer charging around $600 to $800 an hour per lawyer, okay, is going to, shall I say, shorten his fee trough by shortening the case? You're sadly mistaken. They will go the distance until ethically they can advise him, okay, this is the best deal that we can get, and if you don't take it and go to trial and a jury convicts you, your upside exposure is 5 times that. Like 5x could be 6x, could be 10x, of the deal and what have you. And that's generally the way the formula works. So what I mean by that is, you're in a plea negotiation and the government says, okay, we're going to let you plead to 10 years. Okay. Then you got to look at what is the maximum with
You cut out.
guidelines, with all possible in favor of the government. So you got to look at it from the perspective, what's the worst case scenario? If you get convicted in front of a jury, get upward departures in the sentencing guidelines, what's the most you could be facing? So usually defense lawyers will say, okay, if it's a 3-to-1, in other words, if I can get you a deal for 10, but your upside exposure is 30, you might want to consider it. Okay, so that's how normal federal practitioners calculate. If I'm getting you a deal for 10 years and your maximum exposure, assuming you get convicted of everything and everything goes badly and you get upward departures, which he may get, by the way, because there's violence involved, is like 30 or more years, then that's when a lawyer sits down with the client and says, you got to think twice about this. It's a three-way,
Now,
basically.
now is the federal government obligated to offer a plea deal at some point, or can they say we've got, we know
No, I
you're,
don't think so.
they're
Yeah,
not,
I've heard.
are they
They don't have
obligated to say that,
No,
all right, you're setting up for 30 years if you get convicted, and we're gonna go ahead and offer you, 20 if you X, Y, and Z. Are they obligated
no,
to
not
make an
obligated.
offer?
They can. They can.
The
Okay,
government,
so they're not obligated to even offer him a plea deal.
no, they're not obligated to do anything.
No.
Okay, good.
The only thing they're obligated to do is accept a naked plea. That's the only thing that they're obligated to do. Again, I go back to the example of the Hunter Biden case and tax case in California. So he tried to offer a so-called Alford plea. That's to say, I'm pleading guilty because the evidence meets the burden, and I probably will be found guilty. But I'm innocent. That's what an Alford plea basically is. Okay, the government has the right to say, "I'm sorry, fuck you, I'm not taking that." Okay, and that's what they
Yep.
did,
Yep.
and ultimately he came back and said, okay, it'll be a naked plea. That is, and now that they're required to accept, that they must accept if it's a naked plea. That's, I am guilty. I'm guilty of all the charges as cited in the indictment, and I'm asking you to, accept that plea. That they're required to do.
There's a question up here. I want to from Butterfly Kisses. Let me ask you, Don.
Okay.
If I can fucking find it now. Give me a second. I had it up. Okay. How did Diddy know who the witnesses were for a sealed grand jury indictment? How was he given the list of witnesses trying to get him indicted? Those subpoenas are to go out secretly.
Well, that's a multiple question. The short answer is, he's got lawyers, he's got investigators. There's other litigation going on. There's any number of different ways in which he could have learned the identity of witnesses that could have occurred. It's very difficult to assess, right now anyway. How he could have learned of other witnesses, but there are a number of ways that it could have occurred, and none of them nefariously either. It could have been done all through the lawyers who are.
Hey, don't cover up your speaker.
Oh, sorry.
You do that on the phone too, damn it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Fuck.
Hold on 1 second. How about now? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. There are a number of ways in which witnesses' names and identities could have come out. Here's one simple explanation. I'm not saying it's the case. I'm just saying procedurally, this is the way it works. So Diddy has his lawyers and what have you. Other witnesses are being subpoenaed before the grand jury. Or are being questioned by the FBI and get represented by counsel. Okay, every witness is entitled to counsel, especially if you're going to be talking to a federal agent and/or a grand jury. So that lawyer then calls Diddy's lawyer and says, "Listen, my client is a witness against your client. Do you want to, work together on this, or is it not possible that we can't?" And so on and so forth. Lawyers are allowed to talk with other lawyers representing other potential co-defendants or witnesses and what have you, to a certain extent. I mean, there's certain ethical lines that they can't cross, but it's not uncommon that they will learn about the identity of witnesses as lawyer-to-lawyer communications, or even the discovery in the many civil cases. I mean, it could come out that way as well. So it's very difficult to assess, how that's learned. It doesn't have to be nefarious still.
Gotcha.
Does Butterfly
There,
Kisses
BJ?
want to come up?
Say that again?
Does Butterfly Kisses want to come up?
Maybe. Let's see. Jesse and Miss Campurong had to jump down. Let's see. I was going to say, Jesse, I didn't know what the destroyed part meant. Yeah, I remember they said that some of the witnesses that he was either trying to pay off or intimidate were under subpoena. So that's another big fucking part of it. It's a big deal.
Yeah,
Well,
and again, we don't know, when they were under subpoena, at what point they were represented by counsel, and whether or not there was a concerted effort to obstruct, impede, or otherwise affect, justice, via intimidation of the witnesses or whatever. It's a very gray line. I mean, you got to be very, very careful, in criminal defense practice, that you don't cross that line, that you're not doing or saying or acting in a way that might hypothetically be misconstrued as either intimidation or interference or obstruction. It's a very gray line, which is why they normally have all their communications subject to a joint defense agreement when that's appropriate. But it's hard to say in this case. But I wouldn't doubt that there's going to be a lot of witnesses that are going to be involved, with this case ultimately, because just think about it logically. Every one of those recordings, that has an image on it, the government is going to go to those people and begin talking with them and asking them whether or not anybody ever came to them and said, we have a recording of you, and if you talk, we're going to release it. Okay? That's a serious crime.
one of the witnesses, I believe, will be there, and I don't know this for a fact, is somebody at Epic Records. And the reason I believe this is because he was supposedly going to, that hotel where that footage is from, that wasn't the only hotel. He does this often. He doesn't just do these freak offs at home. He does this at various locations. Now, if he invoiced his hotel stay and said it was because, he and Cassie had to do some promotion, her song release party was coming out, or some sort of something to do with the music business, but in actuality, he's funding one of his freak offs. I could see, because there's that will be more like, let's say it's called corroborating information of, Cassie said a freak off happened here at this hotel, and I got beaten over there, and I had to do this and I had to do that. And if they have the records that they were invoiced, from Hotel X from September 1st to September 3rd, and Epic footed the bill because it was something promotional for Cassie, that it's you're using company funds for illegal activities.
Well, I think the more that's part of it, but I would say that's probably a lesser problem. What the worst problem is that it's evidence of concealment and cover up and obstruction. And the reason why that is because if supposing you're traveling and you go to a hotel and you meet a business colleague, you take them out to dinner and you go to bed and then you check out, okay? And that's the stated reason, the stated purpose, and the stated deduction that you're making over that expense. Nothing wrong with that, clearly. Obviously, that's just a normal business transaction. If, on the other hand, you're saying that you did do that, but in reality, okay, you use that excuse, you use that scheme, you use that artifice to otherwise conceal what you're really doing, which is a criminal act, which
Mhm.
is a combination of the R word, maybe interstate travel, maybe conspiracy to commit trafficking, and so on and so forth. But you characterize the expense as being some legitimate, business conference expense, that you ultimately deduct. That's a serious problem because it comes into evidence under what is known in the doctrine of consciousness of guilt. You wouldn't be doing that unless you were trying to conceal the criminal act. So that demonstrates your consciousness of guilt. That's how it comes into evidence, and it would come into evidence most likely if the foundation is there. It would come in. So it's not so much the, if you will, the tax violation or the false business expense violation in the federal case. In this case, because there are no tax counts here, it's more the consciousness of guilt / concealment of evidence, concealment of the scheme, you know, um, with the intent to conceal the scheme, the artifice, the conspiracy, and whatever, by creating this documentary fabrication.
Yes. And,
BTO?
and and from what I understand with Cassie's civil suit that
Yeah,
she had filed that got settled,
yeah,
when he would uh unfortunately beat her, if he
yeah,
beat her where he broke bones
yeah,
and she was that bruised, broken ribs, broken bones, broken nose,
yeah,
he would literally fly her to, let's say, a hotel in Hawaii and
yeah,
keep her there for 3 weeks with his people watching her while he was out elsewhere.
yeah.
So if that was
Really?
expense to Bad Boy Records or Epic Records as an expense, as a travel expense.
That's a little bit attenuated, if you will. I'm not. I wouldn't be so concerned about that as I would be that he attempted to secrete her away so that she couldn't cry out for help, owing to the fact that her injuries would have resulted in a third party crying out for her. It's no different than, really, think about it this way: the woman who's being beaten at home and then seeks to make a phone call by calling 911, and the husband or boyfriend then takes the phone and then destroys it, blocking her ability to get help. That's a felony. Okay, doing that. Okay, it's not criminal damage to property. It's a felony to prevent a person from seeking help because of medical injuries and prohibiting that person from calling 911 or somebody else for help. That's the more serious crime.
I'm just saying that it is a corroboration of the things that she has detailed that has happened to her, where they will have some sort of hotel record of her stay at a specific location.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be x-rays that she will have taken, even if
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
at that time she didn't have medical intervention,
Yeah.
but there will be the scar tissue and the broken bones and the,
Oh, yeah.
the healing of breaks,
Yeah.
so to
For
speak.
sure. For
But
sure.
it's just, it's more to prove that what she says, and here we have an actual timeline and backup proof that yes, she did end up in a hotel in Hawaii for these 3 weeks, and these bruises or these fractures that we see in her x-rays,
Right.
they are x amount of years old and they fit the timeline of what she
Well,
says.
and whether or not, maybe, hypothetically, she goes to Hawaii and the pain is so great that she needs some kind of medication or doctors or hospitals, and they find a doctor to treat her under a false name. That comes in as evidence. They
Mhm.
take her to a hospital, hypothetically, and register her underneath a false name. That comes into evidence. Or even your example, remember, if she's a witness at trial, she's a live witness. She's a res geste witness. So that is to say, res geste means that she is testifying of her own knowledge over an event. Okay, she was actually there, saw something, smelled something, heard something, and is reporting it in testimony. That's what res geste was. She's a first-hand witness. So those witnesses are, in some people's mind, inherently unreliable. Eyewitness testimonies is oftentimes inherently unreliable. So what they do in these proceedings is they find any way possible to corroborate what an eyewitness may see or say. Okay. Well, certainly her medical records would absolutely corroborate
Yes.
what she's saying and would come into evidence, especially if the medical records could be tied as a timeline to when she was taken to Hawaii. I mean, it's very relevant evidence, and it's material evidence, and it's probative. So under those three rules, it would come into evidence. Um, the fact that she was flown out there and secreted as some sort of a scheme, maybe one of the security people flipped. And I'm just making the scenario up, but maybe one of the security people flipped and said, yeah, this was the scheme. Diddy told me to get her out of town, fly her to Hawaii, get her into a room, and don't let her make any phone calls. Don't let her see anybody. Just get her, and dope her up with pain narcotics. Okay. I'm just making that scenario up, but
Mhm.
it certainly is possible, And now they call that guy to corroborate her testimony, what have you. And now, again, that's just another piece of the conspiracy, the racketeering, evidence and what have you. So the predicate act is the interstate transportation, the trafficking, and so on and so forth, and then the cover up and the movement of her through interstate commerce to cover it up. Those are predicate acts to a conspiracy. So
I
think
can't
of
believe he was keeping her prisoner like that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, think of visually, graphically. Think of conspiracy like a wagon wheel. Okay, think of it that way. And in the wagon wheel is a core, and outward of the core are these spokes, and around the wheel it goes. Around it goes. So the core is Diddy. Okay, he's the main participant. He's the creator of the conspiracy. He's the kingpin. And then all these other spokes are the various different schemes, one of which we just talked about. That's typically what a typical conspiracy looks like. And in the law, or there's a famous case about this, it's called the Katiakis conspiracy. Katiakis means wagon wheel. So that's what this is. This is a Katiakis conspiracy. Katiakis was a name of a defendant who appealed multiple planks of evidence coming into a conspiracy case, took it to the Supreme Court, lost, and became a famous case called Katiakis. So that's why they call it the Katiakis conspiracy. Just a bit of truth.
I mean, in terms of my mentioning, whether it's somebody from Epic Records or somebody from Bad Boy Entertainment in their, let's say, their finance division, I could see them testifying, and they do have plausible deniability, because they can say that, he sent us the invoice for his travel they sent me his T&E, he sent me his T&E report, his travel and expenses report.
Right.
And he indicated here that that they flew to this place. Let's say they flew to California for 3 weeks and they're taking it out of the recording budget because Cassie is laying down tracks.
Right.
But meanwhile, the actual evidence is that she really wasn't in California in a studio. She's in Hawaii recuperating.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean,
And it's not that they knew he was doing anything wrong. They literally said, "Oh, it's for a legitimate cause. You know, we're taking it out of the budget and paying this."
That definitely is possible. You know, she may. I mean, they may have no culpability whatsoever in that example because you know, as you say, they just got a bill. You know, it was a genuine hotel bill, and he probably was supposed to be there for whatever reason. You don't know, you know, obviously whatever deal they had with him regarding what he had to, what his business agent had to supply for reimbursement. I could see a million different ways in which they could have said, yeah, go ahead and pay it. But that doesn't mean that they know about what was actually going on. Now, in the other case you described, I never knew about that, about the Sony case. That does make a lot of sense. I mean, if Sony, the liquor case that you were talking about.
Oh, you're talking about Diageo.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because they definitely would go to
they would get it into the correct ears.
Oh, yeah.
So that an investigation would be opened or look into this, because when you mess with that big of a corporation's money, do you know how it affected their what is it called? Their stocks.
Yeah.
When that came out that this company is racist.
Well, let me tell you
what it did to their brand.
Let me tell you something, you know, and I'm not saying anything out of school or anything that's not public, okay? These multinationals, like Sony and others like them, okay? Their security department, their security director, or what have you, who reports to the president of the company, usually, or the general counsel, 9 times out of 10, they come out of federal law enforcement. They are former FBI agents, former Treasury, they could be former Secret Service, depending upon what the bend is of the company, what their needs are, what have you. But assuming for the sake of argument, and this is probably easy to look for, just do some research. Who is the director of security for Sony? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I bet you that he's a former federal agent or has that experience. And it's not uncommon. That's why they hire those guys.
Yes.
That they would pick up the phone, call the special agent in charge of this and that office and say, hey, this is what's going on. You may be interested in this case, and we're willing to cooperate and provide you whatever evidence we have. That's not uncommon.
And I do also think that in terms of Cassie or Cassie's legal team, I do think that the feds did help them frame the wording of her civil case. I think a lot of this has been years in the work. That all these things happened within a time frame that was specific and consciously made. It was planned.
I would, if I were to put my money on what was the ignition event, okay? Was it the civil lawsuit of a former girlfriend that inspired the FBI and all of the potential bias or prejudice that came about as a result of that, versus the director of security of Sony, a former FBI agent who's a friend of the former SAC, who's a friend of the current SAC of one of the offices involved? My money would go on the Sony director of security as being the igniting event, as one possible scenario. Of the two, that would be the one I would pick.
Yeah,
but it could have been any number of others.
Diageo.
Yeah.
I think it's Diageo.
Yeah. And you'd have to look and see who's the director of security for Diageo for the last, say, 5-10 years. Who is that? And then walk his LinkedIn profile back, because it'll be out there. And if you see that he's a former FBI agent or Secret Service or DEA or, you know, any one of the LEAs, you know, I mean, that would be a logical way in which it could occur. And those types of companies, I mean, as you said, they would have a very good reason to want to off this guy and get rid of him, meaning the litigation, what have you, because they want to spare themselves reputational injury.
One of the allegations from, I believe, one of the people that are going to be part of this indictment, which is Little Rod, he had specifically said in his civil lawsuit, which is stayed at this point because of this indictment.
Yeah.
He said that he witnessed them emptying the Diageo liquor, the Ciroc liquor bottles,
Yeah.
and what they put in there was liquid drugs.
No.
And
Well,
that's what, so they would have cases of these bottles that were, and that's what they used so that they could transport this stuff when they flew on these planes.
right. Well, I can tell you that they may have testimony to that effect, and they may have someone making those allegations, but unless one of these raids resulted in recovery of one of the bottles with the residue in the bottle, it's not going to come into evidence.
Mhm.
It's too prejudicial, and it outweighs the probative value. If, on the other hand, they actually acquired that as a result of one of the raids, that's a different issue. Then it has a better chance of coming in. And even then, it really depends on what judge they get on this case and how far the ultimate indictment is going to look. I mean, it's very difficult to say right now and assess, what's ultimately going to get into actual evidence, because we don't have a final. This is just a placeholder indictment right now. So it's more to be revealed.
FBS.
Well, I have something to show Chris. Hold on 1 second here. I want you to see this. Hold on 1 second. Now, I don't want you
Fuck
to
me.
make,
Hold on, Don. Sorry. No, BTF, I heard you. I was muted. I was just wondering if you had any more questions for Don. I'll let him talk for a second, and then if you do, you can ask him, because I'm going to get going in a few minutes so
No,
I can have Shannon on.
yeah.
I don't.
And that
I
is
don't. Thank you.
a perfect segue to this trivia question I'm going to ask Chris. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, what does this mean to you?
What was that? Oh my God. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Are the,
I'll give you a clue.
Amazon?
Okay? And I don't want anybody on this chat to make any phone calls or chats or leak anything. Okay. But Kimberly's birthday is coming up very soon.
oh, shit.
So,
Gotcha.
as you were saying, Shauna time, that's and I have these secreted in the back bathroom in the back of the house, so that or she never goes to. You see, this is what it looks like here, and this is all carefully secreted by the bathtub. You see, and then
Nice.
right, so that you can't find it, and then I have to go and wrap everything, which kills me, but whatever. So
Got to do it.
yeah.
What number bathroom is that?
1, 2, 3, 6.
Holy Jesus.
Well, hey, listen, we have diarrhea. What are you going to do? Come on.
6 bath for 2 people.
Yeah, yeah. You want to see something that's interesting? I'll tell you the story sometime, okay? And Chris, you of all people will hate this, but I'm going to show you this, and then I'll tell everybody this story. What does that look like? Can you see it?
Is that you?
Yeah. So who's the guy up above me?
I can't tell.
You can't?
No.
How about now?
No, it's the.
The reflection of the lamp behind.
Yeah, who is that?
Okay, wait a second here. Hold on. How about now?
I'm not sure. It looks like some politician. Who is it?
You're warm, but not quite. But I'll tell you later.
Oh, all right. You're not telling the audience? How dare you?
It's a long story. Well, I'll tell you the background. Okay, the background was I was a radio voice on a very famous program many years
Oh.
ago. And this individual that's portrayed in that picture asked me one day, this is like 30 years ago, asked me one day, aren't you ever going to get married and settle down and what have you? Get out of this television radio business and whatever. And I said, no, well, no one wants me. And he says, I'll tell you what, I will print a sign, which is what he's holding in his hand. And it says, and the sign says with a big arrow, date him. Okay.
Oh, is that what that said?
And with a downward arrow on me when I was, shall I say, much younger and less ugly, less broken down too. And he broadcast that on his show or what have you. And I got a lot of calls. None of them came from Kimberly, but I got a lot of calls, And I had a lot of fun too. Yeah. But there was only one that I got married to. And they've been married ever since. So I'll tell you who that is when I talk to you privately. That's the story behind it anyway.
Jesse said, were you on NPR, Don?
Was that what? What?
On NPR.
No, I've never been on that show. You're the only show I've ever been on other than Jimmy's show. That's the truth, too. I mean, on YouTube, yeah.
Oh, all right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, she means public, on National Public Radio.
Yeah. No, it wasn't on that show. It was on an NBC show. I'll give you that.
Oh, all right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
a very famous,
listen.
very famous. You have to go back in time and look for it.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, I want to thank you both for coming on, and Miss Can't Be Wrong and Jesse. Miss Can't Be Wrong didn't get to say much, but BTF, thank you for joining. I'm going to do maybe a series of these as new information comes out. So we'll be able to do this a lot.
Thank you. And thank you for answering my questions, Don.
No problem. Take care of yourself. God bless. And be well. And everybody else, stay safe, stay strong, stay sober, and stay 2 steps ahead of the coroner. And stay especially 2 steps ahead of Diddy. Dildo.
Yes.
Dildo.
The diddler. Uh-huh.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
right.
I'm going to hop off.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, BTF. There you go. That was a good show. 2 hours and 19 minutes. I want to thank everybody who donated because when people are talking, I don't shout out the donations because I don't want to interrupt. But Bobby Barbarian sent $5. Thank you, Bobby. Antonino sent 20 and said, glad you're expanding your shows. Proud supporter. Thank you, Antonino. That means a lot to me. And also, JD Hope said, excellent show, FBS. Thank you. Thank you, JD. Sally, $5. Instant Karma, $19.99 for match. And as you know, she's one of the biggest sponsors of the show. So if you'd want to match her, you could do it like right now still. Let me see. What is this? I don't know. No Freaking ZD now, $199 for the baby oil fund. Johnson & Johnson only. Gotcha. Beverly the Nice One Martin, $5. Just out of hospital, very high diabetic sugars. I'm on the men numbers wise. Everyone enjoy your weekend. Oh, well, I hope you're okay, and I hope you remain that way. Thank you for the $5. And I hope you enjoy your weekend as well. Feel better. Sally, I shouted you out earlier for the membership. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. See, we get to do something different sometimes. Not as many people watch, but who cares? All right. That's a text I got to look at later. So thank you, guys. And BTF, thank you for contributing so much. And we'll do this again. We're going to do a lot of these shows. Michael Hensley, $9.99. Great show. Don is the man. He is the man. He absolutely is. Thank you, Michael, for the $9.99. It means a lot to me. Butterfly Kisses says, have a great weekend, Don Berlin. Jesse, I'll send Phoenix the link. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you guys for everything. I'll see you tomorrow at some point. All right. I love you all. And until next time, salute.